Yo, what is going on, everyone? Hope you're having a beautiful, lovely, fantastic day. I'm your host here at If You Don't Know, Now You Know. And this beautiful guest I have here right now, Morton, brother, how are you? What's going on?
I'm good, thank you.
Man, Lachlan, bro, this is I watched your video last night on Instagram, and I was like, yes, because I've been wondering where you are, man. I was like, fuck, and then you kind of explained it, and I was like, bang, and then tomorrow I was like, yes, I get to do a potty with the bros. So, welcome to the show, bro. Appreciate you, appreciate the time, and also the man that you are, and the way that you show up,
Thank you.
and the way that you show up, man.
Appreciate
I love it, eh? I love watching your content and the way and the way that you produce things as well. So, let's kick the show off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and why you do it.
I guess what I do is try to show up vulnerably and authentically, and I guess that set the precedent or the standard for how I believe others can show up for themselves. I primarily do that through, I guess, FIFO industry do that through delivering workshops and speaking gigs, lived experience speaking through a mental health podcast, and at the moment creating a men's platform where we teach men who have a message, who want to transmit their truth, and find a tribe, teach men how to clarify their message, create a course, and then launch a course.
Bang.
So
Hey.
that's what I'm working on at the moment.
Let's give you a few plugs, bro, because it's really important. So I'm just gonna turn this on again. Keep going. Where can we find you, man? I like to give everyone a plug at the start.
Oh, awesome. So Lachie Samuel, Lachie Samuel on most platforms, probably most active on LinkedIn. That's where most of the business comes from. That's where most of the interaction is. And then Open Up with Lachie Samuel is the podcast on all podcast platforms.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out his podcast, please go check it out, guys. I'm also on there as well. Actually, no, you were the very first podcast I did. You popped my cherry on my podcast, and now here it is. Now you're on my podcast. So, man, bro, appreciate you. Hey, thanks for letting me do this. And man, I was like, I got to get on and have a yarn to you. Hey, so yeah, thanks for freeing up your time, bro, and making time for me, because I really do enjoy what you do and the spaces that you work in. And before I have to correct you, you said you try to show up vulnerable for men. No, you do show up like that. So don't ever discredit yourself in that manner, man. That's watching your content. If you're a man out there, go check his shit out. Like, real, to be honest. I like what you're putting out there as well, man. And more men need to see this. And it's a strong, powerful message, and your podcast is on point as well. So kudos. Actually, now let's jump into that, because last night you put up a video about, like, you're not steering away from the podcasting, but you're dropping it off the back end a little bit to focus on other things.
Yeah, man. So, like, I got evacuated from a site I was working at doing 4-in-1 roster, like working FIFO. Got evacuated for being suicidal, man. Started the podcast off the back of that, for guys who are suffering like me, who are in isolation, something they could turn on with their headphones in and no one would know what they were listening to. So they could listen to a story, and essentially that's what the podcast is, people sharing, I guess, their story of struggle and how they overcome the adversity. And so I kicked that off after being evacuated, and then it's been like maybe 2.5 years of putting pressure on myself to create and remain consistent, like that Casey Neistat do more work motto, which is like just keep uploading.
Yeah.
And definitely built a tribe and built a podcast following through being that person. But over the last couple months, especially as COVID hit and I was forced to slow down as someone who was always go, I started realizing that I put a lot of pressure on myself, and the primary, I guess, reason behind it, or the underlying reason for me doing that, was external validation. Creating content, helping people, having people reach out and message me saying it's helped them, me feeling good, and then putting pressure on myself to remain consistent and keep uploading, like at least once a week. I think in like 2 years I did about 200 and something episodes. So like it's been a fair effort as someone who didn't know how to edit, who didn't know how to interview, who didn't know how to do nothing, bro.
Man, like it's just like I'm like looking at this because like I'm like, sweet, I'm going for 100 by the end of the year. So just watching your video last night, it did make me not rethink my plan, but make sure that my plan and why I'm doing it was serious. And I was like, you know what, he's got some definitely points there, and there's always some lessons out of someone that's done 200 to someone that's done 15. And I was like, okay, cool. Why is that coming up for you now? And I was watching, I was like, cool. But yeah, it was really good to watch that. And I was like, fuck, that was a good video, man.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. that hit
I literally got off a coaching call, bro, and was just fired up about life and, you know, looking at him and then seeing the stuff that I've overcome and why I stepped away from the podcast for, it's been about a month, and like I haven't missed a week in 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Like it's been about a month, and it was really hard not having that source of external validation. But I noticed that if I missed the day that I said that I was going to release a podcast, I would shame myself so much and put so much pressure on myself that I'd stay up late and, you know, do it. And I just kept myself in this perpetual cycle of shame. And then my self-worth become achievement-based.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought I really stepped into self-worth and viewed myself as worthy, but realistically, it was sort of still tied up in completing tasks and, you know, keeping to my word.
Yeah, well,
within the podcast.
There is quite a lot of pressure, definitely, especially, you know, when you start diving into the content creation, they're like, you have to post X amount of times a day, this much content, and I might look, and I've had to battle this struggle. I realised this real quick because I've been trying to do one every second day, or two a day. I'm doing one after this, which is fine, but for me, I fucking love working hard, and I'm high energy all the time, and I got good systems and stuff to put it in place, but yeah, like, don't put the pressure on yourself. That's one thing I learned last week. I was like, look, I didn't get the video out. I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to go do some other shit. I got heaps of other shit to do. The video will still get uploaded when it gets uploaded, and that's it, you know. And then this week it turned out all right. All my shit sorted until Monday. I will edit these on, I'll edit this shit on Monday. You know, and then so it's cool. I get my time, but yeah, last night when I was looking at yours, I was like, man, there's some lessons here. I was like, there's some real lessons here. So yeah, kudos, bro. And like, just tell us the journey of like your podcast, doing 200 podcasts. What's that like? Because I know you've learnt so much.
Yeah, there's been a lot of lessons, man. Like the biggest thing for me, and you know, something that I've realized recently, is that the podcast has been like an unintentional way of building out my network, becoming an authority in my space, especially here in Perth, which is mental health, the mental health industry, and like unintentionally having coaches that I'm connecting with that are giving me free advice. Like 100 and something interviews now, and that's, you know, 100 people who have overcome adversity, who are giving you a different perspective and different tips, tools, and tactics to attack or approach issues that arise in your life. And that's been, you know, that's had a profound impact on the way that I show up, man.
Man, this is what's landing for me too. I was like sitting there this morning, buddy, combing my hair, and I was like, man, I was looking, I was like, what's a 100 look like? And I was like, my 100 podcast looks like my brain expands a lot. I get to speak to a lot of coaches and a lot of different people that I get education out of this as well, you know, as I'd get to learn off the people as well, and then also get to spread that information, you know, and it's such an important, it's a freaking, it's a bit of a craft, hey, being a bit of a scholar out these days, as I like to say.
I think one of the other amazing things it's taught me is how to speak, but probably more importantly, how to listen. Like in terms of speaking, just understanding a flow and like, especially being in conversation, but also like projecting your voice and being comfortable speaking and having it come straight off the top of your head rather than needing, everything to be written down and analyzed first.
Yeah.
You just become real comfortable at shooting the breeze. And if you can do this in a setting where you're putting it out to thousands of people, it becomes really easy to do it on a stage. So that's helped me immensely. And then listening has been probably the best skill. Like before this, I was that guy that needed to bring every conversation back to himself. Like if you were telling me about your life cycle tinctures, I'd be like, oh, fuck yeah, I've had mushrooms before. I did it over here. And, everything would come back to me. And with this, it's really not about that. It's like pulling out the nuggets of gold that the other person has. And so I've been forced to listen, and now I love listening.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's not about me. If you're the podcast, and that's kind of the balance I'm finding at the moment, because I dived into this like deep. It's for me to extract the information out of them, not tell them my story. And I'm still only 15 in, and I catch myself doing it. And, I'm like, shit, I told them my story. But sometimes you get into a natural flow state where you're talking, and then like, it's quite easy to just bring up your story about it. And you're like, oh, fuck, I just told my story. I'm like, sorry, man.
And there's nothing wrong with that, bro. Like as you go, you'll learn how to inject yourself into a conversation and get the message across in a succinct and concise way.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you start off, it's hard to do that because you have so much you want to say, but you're the podcast host, so you just say it anyway.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh fuck. As long as you're not shaming yourself, it's all good.
Yeah, it's just one of those little things. Let's go the direction of what are you doing at the moment, like as far as life goes? Because you're stepping into this space. I've seen that you've started that you're going doing the FIFO work. So what's that in? Like, break that down for us, for the people out there watching and listening.
Yeah, so pretty much my story around mental health, man, like depression, suicidality, and like losing friends to suicide is all based around FIFO, the fly in, fly out mining industry. And on the back of the podcast came the opportunity to go and speak to different mining companies. And then off the back of that came the opportunity to like deliver seminars and to deliver strategy, and then to create like the first FIFO mental health summit, which I did like here in Perth and then in Brisbane for FIFO executives. And I was doing that by myself last year. And it got to a point early this year where I was just burning myself out, like trying to do everything myself, trying to be the lone wolf, trying to take on all the acknowledgement and the praise, trying to get all the money for myself, trying to help everyone myself. Yeah, and I just got way too burnt out, bro. So I decided to step away. Like I gave my business plan to a company here in Perth called Happiness Co., who I trusted. Just like, if you guys want to go help with FIFO industry, here's the business plan. Go use it. And left it at that. Like no attachment, just cut the cord. And then a couple months later, they called me up and said, hey, we want to kick this off. Do you want to lead it? So come back on board. I get to do what I love doing, which is just go facilitate and meet people, get paid very, very well as part of the partnership. And they handle all the processes, the marketing, the resources, everything. Like I just got a wicked deal, bro. And that's essentially what I do is I go into businesses, onto camps, share my story, talk about peak performance, stress management, the other pillars that we deliver, and then go stay at camp and provide men's circles.
Bang. Man, I might have to come over there and just take you out and take your job. Like, shit. Hey, don't tell me this. I might have to come over there. Bloody try to steal a job off you, man. That sounds too good. You know what? That's just a smart move, and it goes to your testimonial to yourself of, like, I guess your level of growth and trust. Because this is something I realized a long time ago. I'm like, man, like trying to do everything alone is just I was really good at that. And I was like, man, I'm already really good at doing shit alone. I was like, imagine if I could partner up with people and have that trust and build those connections and be able to navigate a good conversation around business that would benefit us all. Like it's just about having that conversation of how do we both win here? How do we all win? How do we get this thing and work together and group it up and push forwards?
Yeah, and I found, honestly, I sabotaged the opportunity to work or to partner with Happiness Co. multiple times. Like we were we were both working with like the biggest oil and gas and mining companies in WA, like separately as separate organisations. But I had the offer to partner with them and to take over and to like legitimately positively impact the FIFO and mining industry with them and with their resources and reputation. But I just sabotaged it, man, because I was worried that Open Up, which was the brand before, wouldn't get the accolades, wouldn't get the recognition.
You're worried about
which then meant I wasn't. Yeah, it then meant I wasn't successful.
Yeah. Oh man, you don't
Ego.
need that, bro. Oh man, fuck, ego's a nasty old ego. Guess what I always say? Ego is not your amigo.
That's good, man.
He's a nasty motherfucker. My ego, obviously just it's there. When you know it's there and your ego's flaring up, it's like you have to just have those times where you're just like, you're like, oh man, shit. Anyway, you're gonna move on from this. Thanks, ego, and you say thank you and you move on. But yeah, it's yeah, man. I really like the steps that you've taken. And it probably steps back into the coaching and whatever environment that you're in at the moment. I guess so. That's kind of what I'm taking. So let's break that down as well. Like, what are you doing at the moment as far as personal development? Because being in this space doesn't mean that you just get to stop learning, you stop growing. You're always consistently moving and leaning into other areas of your life. What's that look like as of recent?
Recently, that's been the Kaboom coaching container with Preston Smiles and Zion Kim, which was massive for me in terms of understanding how to show up for myself, and that the lack of commitment to showing up for myself was reflected in my clients. So that it looked like we'd have Zoom calls, and instead of showing up to the Zoom call and setting a time and space for me to sit there and to be seen and to be supported and held, I would book that Zoom call for when I was doing a walk so that I could say, I'm doing a walk, it's a bit noisy, I'm going to turn the video off and turn the sound off, and if you need me, mention me or something. And so, after going through that cycle of, I guess, not being aware of the self-sabotage, I got a few gentle but loving slaps.
Yeah, and the call forwards, not the call outs.
Yeah, bro, and they just pretty much said, from Extreme and Bridge, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And I just haven't been showing up for myself up until that point. And it was reflected in those Zoom calls. It was reflected in my clients. Like, how can I expect to have clients who show up for themselves, who commit to themselves powerfully by committing to me if I can't even commit to me? And so that was probably my biggest takeaway, along with, I guess, understanding that coaching isn't about the price point. It isn't about justifying or validating your worth and then paying X amount of dollars for what you're worth. It's about how much is this one breakthrough that's going to profoundly impact and change them for the rest of their life worth. Like, is that worth 5K? Is that worth 10K? If you could pay 5K and have the one issue that's hampering or hindering your life changed or removed, would you do it? Fuck yes.
Fuck yeah,
and that's
man.
what it's about. It's not about validating your worth as a coach.
Man.
So primarily what I do, man, is I help men become vulnerable, essentially. I believe that's the root cause of most of the issues that men face, is this inability, unwillingness, or lack of courage to be vulnerable, which is like vulnerability within ourselves and vulnerability with others. So it has to start within self, and us being able to first become aware of it, second, acknowledge it, and then third, own it. And then from there, we can be vulnerable with other people, like authentically.
There is like such power and vulnerability. And just what like just flew over me then was like extreme leadership, man. Oh fuck, man! And shout out to Preston and Lachie for holding that space to us too. I got a great deal of love and respect for both of them, and not just as coaches. I just feel as humans, their charisma and their general, they're very authentic. And like that's just like those kind of humans are special, and I hold people like that near and dear to me as well. And those kind of people make better worlds. And the vulnerability that you showed at Extreme Leadership? Do we want to talk about that today?
You can.
I'll
you can
fucking talk about it. So, I guess because you're at Bridge, hey? You're at Bridge. No, you didn't come, no, yeah, you're at Bridge and then Extreme. So, two personal development leadership courses out there. If you haven't checked them out, go check them out. Preston and Lexi Smiles. Hopefully they're coming back to the Land Down Under soon. But Lachlan, the first day of our course, there's a vulnerability. Oh, actually, I wouldn't say there's a vulnerability. There's an exercise anyway. We're not going to touch on it, but man, this is like, these people get you out of your box. You know, you want to stay in your box, you stay home. You're getting out your box if you come into Extreme Leadership. That is for sure. Lachlan jumps up on the chair. I won't break it all down, but yeah, he pulls his pants down and gets his dick out in front of everyone on the chair, and steps into his vulnerability and just owns everything there. The day before, like 2 days before we actually were meant to do this exercise, the couple of days, he did it in the first hour. I was just like, holy shit, man. I was like, we're in the room here, all right? And I've praised you on this before on your podcast, but that level of vulnerability and just stepping up and like owning who you are, and man, I was like, fuck, man, that takes some straight ball sacks to get up there and do what you did that day. So, man, I always pay credit to you for that, man.
Yeah, man, and to give that context, like I was someone who was, wouldn't say raped, but a guy had sex with me for about 2 years and would consistently tell me my dick was too small from like 8 to 10. So from then, you know, I've had a porn addiction because he showed me porn as well. You know, I thought a man who could please a woman had to have a certain size penis. Being told I had a small penis, you know, I just had that inferiority complex since I was little. Like very, very little, man.
From what, 8 till 8
onwards? From 8 onwards. Until I seen you, and then Beck Antonucci, she was the one who convinced me to go to Extreme and Bridge. And, you know, I had people who I didn't know if they were fucking with me, telling me that I might have to get naked. And I didn't realize till that point that was probably my biggest fear. Like when I would go into the toilets, especially if there was a urinal, and there was someone standing at the urinal, I would rather walk back out the toilet and wait for them to go and hold my piss, then go and stand next to them and risk them possibly looking at my dick and go, ah!
Fuck you, man. You crack me up, eh?
You know, I have
it's just the honesty of you that cracks me up. Like, that's what I love about you, is that conversation there is so honest and raw, and that's your vulnerability. You know, you can step into that.
But that's the level of anxiety, man. And like 3 weeks into Bridge and Extreme, because I thought I might have to get naked, I was like catatonic, bro. I was just not wanting to eat, not wanting to get off the couch because I was so paralyzed by fear. And so that first weekend with Bridge, I turned up and I was just a shell of myself, man. I was just so scared that I was going to have to get naked that I couldn't show up authentically. And then in like one of the exercises where they give you feedback, I got called like scared little boy. Do you trust him? And someone said no, and it broke my heart. And I was just like, fuck. Had a week to think about it, and then I remember posting on Instagram and going, fuck, I don't care. Tomorrow I'm getting naked, and you messaged and they were like, fuck, mean, bro. I was like, oh, yes, someone's got my back.
I was like, man, you're like, I remember watching, he's like, I'm going to get up naked on the chair and just own this shit the straight day. And like, for the people that are out there watching and listening, like there's like 75 people in that room, and girls and boys too. Yeah, and a bunch of coaches as well. Lachlan gets up he goes up the front, and he didn't just like stand up there and drop his dacks. He got up on the chair, like he's standing up, and you had to stand there. I was like, damn, man. I was like, fucking get it, man. I was like, that for me, that was like solidified. And I know, like looking at things like that, I'm like, you don't do something like that and just take extreme ownership on everything in your life like that and not have a change or pivotal moment in your life where you go and you step up, man. And that was a special day, not just to see your dick, but to see you own who you were. You know?
Well, I got to see yours too.
Oh, that's right. You see my cock too. I had to do the exercise a couple of days later. But yeah, that was oh man, even on mine, like I still laugh about it because I don't want to give too much away because it's but if you are watching this, just man, trust me and trust everyone else. That's probably not even for me. It wasn't one of the worst things. And there's many more. That's like, that's the icing on the cake. Don't let that deterrent you, because the same thing. I got told this before I went as well. I was like, I think I'm gonna have to get naked, and I was like, oh, that's okay. Well, what happened was I was standing there, and they're like, okay, drop your decks, and I put my pants down, and like I stood back up. And then all the boys were standing there because we had our crew there, and some of them had their undies on. I'm standing there with my cock out, and I'm like looking over. I was like, "You fucking assholes!" But then obviously they took their pants off. Like Andy and that were like, "Yeah, bro." I looked up, and you are standing with your cock out, and I had to get mine out too. So I was just like, "Oh man!" I was like, "Fuck!" But what happened was, I don't want to give it too much away, but like you have to walk up. And I walked up and there was too many people there. So I had to turn around and go back. I did that twice. So I walked up to the strutting up there and I was like, shit. And then I was like, fuck, there's too many people. So I didn't want to stay up there. So I had to turn around and go back. And then I had to walk back again. It was, oh man, I remember I was like, fucking hell, just go for it. That was exciting times, bro. Really exciting times. Yeah, that was the level of growth. Let's talk about that as well, because last year, like, you leave there, you would have had like a processing stage where like your brain's fucking just going, holy shit, what happened? Like my body's going through a physical, mental, emotional shift right now out of extreme. That's it. That's what that is. They put that word in there says extreme. That bit is in there for a reason. You know? It's not called medium leadership. It's called extreme leadership, all right? And that's exactly what it is. So what happens after that? You roll out of there. You got to fucking process everything. Where does Lachlan go from there?
To be honest, man, I probably sunk back into like that achievement-based self-worth. Like went straight from that to a couple days later. No, the next weekend. No, it was a couple days later doing the FIFO Mental Health Summit in Brisbane, and then presenting all day at that, like engaging with FIFO executives in Brisbane, and then probably just carried on my merry way. But like honestly, off the back of that, because I'd faced that fear of being seen naked and broken through so many things and had my awareness brought to so many different flaws, I thought, fuck it, I'm healed. Like, there's no more. I'm done. And it's probably just that complacency that got me, to be honest. Like, believing that because I'd challenged, like, leant into the edges and faced uncertainty and broken through multiple levels and multiple layers of fear, I thought I was done. And, when you become complacent, you think it's done. That's when the lows and the dark times hit you the hardest. So probably went from there like straight into a period where I constantly needed to fill my calendar to avoid that feeling, to avoid lows. And like not aware of it unconsciously, with confidence because I'd broken through. But yeah, I probably went through a couple months of just filling my calendar to the point where I burnt out and I couldn't do it anymore. I had to step away. Lost all the contracts because of COVID, all of our contracts in the FIFO game. And yeah, man, sort of had to face the dark times, face the ebbs, and embrace it, because I was a person who couldn't embrace the low vibration, emotion and frequency. Like it always had to be positive. It always had to be happy. It always had to be okay. And I guess like happiness and contentedness for me is being able to show gratitude for the moment and the experience that you're in without desperately clinging to it, without needing it to be that way forever.
Yeah. I like, this is what I do. And people always ask me like, oh, how do you stay on such a high? I'm like, I fucking don't. I definitely don't. Like some people, because I can be quite high energy. I'm like, one thing I always do is I celebrate the shit things. man. Like, cause everyone celebrate the good, which is cool. I learned that lesson. It was so cool. But I was like, I don't know about just doing the celebrating the good. Like, should we do the other things? And it's something I've learned into a lot more as of recent. And man, celebrating anything that's not great, like I have a fucked up day. Like, oh man, I've had heaps of fucked up days. But always, if you're in this mindset, you can find the positive. Yay. And you can always do that, which is fine when you've been trained and coached to do that. But what about the shit things? And for me, I go home and celebrate it. Like, celebrate the shit out of the fucked up days, man. Some days I just got to put on the music and I just go for it, and that's what was like coming up for me then. And like, I feel like you're really, man, you're embracing everything in life at the moment. After even like watching your video last night, I'm like, he's really playing this game at the moment,
Yeah, I'm enjoying it too, man. Like, and COVID was a blessing for me because I've got a 14-week-old daughter, and to be honest, like, sounds harsh, but like my family wasn't my priority, bro. Like, achievement was my priority. And so I was spending hardly any time with them, and when it was time with them, it wasn't present time because I was always worried about when the next email was going to come in, when the next LinkedIn notification was going to come, where the next opportunity was going to come from. And so COVID was sort of like a slap in the face in the universe saying, slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
And so I did, man, and it took a lot of work, like me giving myself permission to slow down, but it's been beautiful, like to reprioritize life, to see that all there is really as a man when you have a family is being a father, like breaking down that cycle just a little bit more so that your kids can further break down that cycle. And it's been an amazing process. And in slowing down, like, I've given myself permission to just be, and like what I was talking about in that video, just be me, and to step into some semblance of self-worth with me just being, without needing to achieve, without needing to create a podcast, without needing love. Like, fuck, a baby is such a beautiful lesson, and giving love without expectation of love in return, because they can't. Even if they smile that young, it's like, oh, they probably just need a burp. So it's been amazing for me because love has always been something that I wasn't freely or willing to give away freely, because love to me represented power. And if I gave away power, then someone would have control over me. So it's been such a beautiful lesson, like learning how to love her fully, and then that's translated into my relationship with my 4-year-old and my relationship with my partner. And it's been amazing, but there's been a lot of expression, a lot of stuff come up. And like, I recently just did a peyote ceremony, and that was just fucking wild.
How long ago? A week?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. I know, because I've done some quite plant medicines, and I was like watching your video, and I was like, man, he's done something. Not like you're super different or anything, but I'm like, he's really dropped in here. There's something, he's had a shift and a change, and just going off like that now, I'm like, you've taken that pressure off yourself to perform, and really being in the present and now. I feel like that's what's kind of showing up here after this conversation. But now that's kind of all adding up. I'm like, because what happens as a male, man, like, you can, it's understanding when to put the foot on the gas and when not to. And like, when you're just fucking metal, foot to the floor, going 100, which I love that. I love that, man. And I love working going 100. But there's also, you got to okay, take the foot off. Okay, and stop and be everything that's right here, right in front of you. Otherwise, when you're going too fast, you don't get anything.
That's it, bro. And like, I mean, I guess peyote is the masculine and tapping into the masculine, and it sort of changed my perspective on what I view as masculine and manly. Like, before I left New Zealand, I had a fight, like a boxing fight, amateur boxing fight, and got knocked out in front of like my father, my mum, all my friends, all my family. And I think I never got in the ring again after that. And from that point on, I took on the belief that I wasn't masculine or an alpha male because I quit. That's the story I had in my mind. And so I translated that masculine energy, or I perceived masculine as achievement. And so to go into that ceremony, to have my world and my heart blasted open, and to, understand with the group of men that I was with that being masculine is really just showing up and love and support as a man for your kids, for your partner, for everyone you come into contact with. That was a beautiful realization for me, man. And like duality, both like that feeling of just like ultimate connectedness with everything and everyone was beautiful to feel, like genuine happiness and peace was amazing. But also there was like deep trauma that come up, and just had like the deepest cry of my life, snot everywhere, and had 8 dudes who just given me cuddles until my body stopped shaking. And in that ceremony, like I went through my father or my dad trying to drown me in our bathtub, and I remember like I was forced to re-experience it, and I remember him like holding me under the water and looking at him from under the water and going, "But I love you, like why are you doing this to me?" And crying and speaking through that, similar to what they teach at Extreme and Bridge. It was beautiful for me to feel that emotion and to finally express it, because I speak about it all the time, but I've never had that sort of emotion come up.
Feeling it. It's I guess the allowing process of allowing it to go full circle, which is like kind of what you need to work through to be able to allow all that stuff to happen and do it properly. Because like if you just go half around, it's like it didn't get there, and fully feeling it and working through the emotions, the crying, like everything that you just spoke about is the.
That's it, man. And that's a beautiful process. And in that process, I realized, the reason for the lack of self-worth is because in that moment, my heart was broken because I lost my hero, because he broke my trust, because he was doing something to me that I didn't understand or feel I deserved, and therefore I felt that I wasn't worthy for him, and then built this story and belief system around not being worthy for him, so I'm not worthy for X, Y, Z. And that was amazing for me to understand, to witness, and then to go back to my dad and have the hard conversation and just say, "Hey, man, like, fuck, don't shame yourself for this.
Yeah,
you went through a lot worse than I did. You broke the cycle a little bit. What happened to me needed to happen to me in order for me to be the man I am in the position I am to help, men in the way that I'm doing so."
Yeah, man, and big credit to yourself for going there and doing that and telling that to your old man as well, because that's not an easy conversation to have. I could only imagine being able to step into that leadership that you have and that vulnerability, and being able to approach your father and be like, "Hey, this is it. I don't hold anything against you." Explain that the peyote. That's what you did, hey? Peyote.
Yep.
That's the one that goes up the nose. No.
No, that's harpe.
Harpe. Fuck, man. I did a whole day one day, and we did like harpe, the eye, and the frog at the same time.
Oh my God.
I was talking about this the other day because I got off the plane one day in New Zealand, like just got back and had to fast and everything. Rolled off the plane and, and I just thought we were doing cane toad. I just thought we were doing the frog. I got there, they're fucking burning my eyes, putting shit up my nose. I was just like, I remember looking at Lenore and I was like, "Man, you didn't tell me these fucking people gonna burn my eyes." I was like, I just got off the fucking plane, man. I was like, and like I'm talking, peyote. What else was it? Sangria. I can't remember what it is. The stuff they put in the eye. It's to clear out your eyes and stuff like that. Man, burnt. But it was good. It was really powerful. Tell us about your experience.
It was awesome, man. Like it's in the bush. So just surrounded by nothing but trees, in a yurt with a fire pit in the middle, and just drop in with a group of guys. With the shaman just has this powder that he gives us. You put this dry powder on your tongue. It's like fucking like Vital Greens or something. It looks like that, and you just scoop a tablespoon, put on your tongue, and you do 3 or 4 tablespoons, and go out into the bush, go for a walk around.
Just get lost.
Take in everything, bro. Like, just bring your awareness to how present you are. Because, like, the reason that I feel that's so powerful is because you're completely present the whole time. And that trip was like nearly a 17-hour trip for me, bro. of being completely present. It was tiring as fuck,
You're really
but
deep
it
in it.
was amazing.
You're really deep in
Yeah,
it. Yeah, it's amazing when you have something happen like that, and you're like, man, it's like you're really really in it. Like it's not like people like taking drugs and shit, but like drugs is different. Like sometimes you don't remember all that shit, especially when you got alcohol and stuff in there. But when you're doing like plant medicines and stuff like that, and you're really in it, you're like, fuck, man, this is powerful.
yeah, it's a beautiful experience, man. Especially as a man who grew up with, like, I guess, a mum who couldn't trust anyone and who didn't have friends. So, like, for the most part, I've taken on that belief system that you have to overanalyze everyone and that people need to prove that they can be trusted before you can fully trust them. And I guess that plant medicine peyote for me sort of lifted the veil on that and just gave me the opportunity to see people and to like fully connect and trust without needing them to prove themselves first. Like seeing them as whole beings rather than as people who can provide me something or who may potentially hurt me.
Want something from them or what they can or can't give you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a real, the last time, what did I do last time? Cane toad. That one kind of broke me in a way, hey. That really broke me, but in the right ways. Yeah, and it's just allowed that it's like, man, like, fuck everything, hey. Like, at the end of the day, like, fuck yous. That's kind of what there's a big message that I got from it. It's just like, man, whatever. Like, we're all beings here. We're all just beings, making our way through life, trying to figure things out. Like, don't be trying to shoot people down because it doesn't look right for you or it doesn't feel right. I'm like, how they do their thing is how they do their thing, and how you do your thing is maybe how you do your thing, and those are all like so important.
I'm interested in your transition, bro, from construction and, I guess, where you've been a contractor to now doing this. How's that been for you, man?
I went through that phase, through the COVID phase. So yeah, and I had to let go of that identity. For me, I'd been a builder since for a while now, and I'd wanted to be a builder since I was grade 10, man. And it'd been a mission and a goal. I'd just been that guy that was on a fucking terror, just trying to I wanted to be a builder, and I got to a stage and I was like, I actually played the opposite game. I don't know if you knew, I set myself last year to play the opposite game up until my birthday, and I was like, fuck, man, what's this look like? And I'd set it out, and then the time come around, and I was like, are we doing this? I was like, I actually threw the paper out. I had this old plan of how, like, the rules. I scrunched it up and I threw it out. I was like, because it was the middle of COVID. And I was like, oh, no, we can't pay middle. Oh, but I set that last year to that period, and I was like, nah. I was like, we can't do it. And I was like, no, you have to do it. That's exactly what the opposite game is. And the transition was I was like, look, like, construction's there. It's always going to be there. And it's something I'm good at. I'm good at it. I was like, what's something that I'm not good at? Something I wasn't good at was having a in-depth conversation with people and humans, and fully understand. I was like, so that's podcasting, man. I was like, looks like I'm being a podcaster. And it was something that I looked at for a while, but I could always talk shit. I could talk shit and I could have a yarn and stuff like that. But really, like what we were speaking about at the start, like unraveling someone's story and really getting into the full depth of the why and extracting the information, I don't feel like that was a strong point of mine, and something I struggled with. And yeah, I was like, okay, well, I think I'm a podcaster now. What's that look like? So I scrapped my construction business and I built a fucking studio at my house, like a straight studio. And people were like, and here I was in here one day and I was painting the walls and shit. And someone sent me this video about ABC. I don't know if you've seen it. They were like, whatever you do not make a fucking podcast. They were like, put it out there. It's pretty like brutal. And I was like, oh shit, man. Because it was COVID. It was middle of COVID, man. And I end up just transitioning into this. And because it's something I love too. I know I love this. It's a great deal of, there's a lot of lessons here, but I feel like this is something I could do professionally and for a very long time. I like being a scholar. I've always kind of liked telling people stories. So
that's awesome, bro.
Yeah, I just never really stepped into it and fully owned it. If I'm being, I've always because I'm the biggest thing out of my bridge and extreme was I'm an observer. I'm been very good at observing things for a very long time. Like I could always watch anything and figure it out in my head, but I'm like I never actually told the story of how like to do it, explain it. I always knew how to explain things, but I'm like I just never did. I'm like just I've been good at observing shit for a long time. I'm like why not just start telling people about it?
That's awesome, man. It's is there any resistance come up about the transition of identities?
Yeah, oh fuck yeah, man. Trying to let go of like Luke the Builder was like I'm like, oh what am I now? What am I now? I'm like even though the stage I was like, what do I even put in my bio? I'm not a builder. I'm like, what do I write? Like people like and having conversations, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh no, actually I'm not a builder. And I'm like, fuck, what am I? What am I? And I'm like having to let go of that was really hard and difficult for me. But now I know what I know where it is, and I've got a clear plan and path as to where I want to take this. And man, I'm excited for it, Bo. And it's I'm Luke, the content creator, the selfishly like putting content out there from other people's and telling other people's stories so other people get value out of it. I feel like I'll do this for a year without getting anything out of it financially, which is fine. I like telling people stories, and yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm just lay down the work.
That's probably the best mindset you can go into a podcast with.
Yeah.
I think people see Joe Rogan's Spotify deal and assume that there's going to be money in it for everyone. It's like, no, bro. I think I was in the top 10 mental health podcasts like in Aussie and New Zealand last year for like a majority of the year. And then that hasn't really given me much return apart from small sponsorships. But it has given me a voice and a platform and like given me an opportunity to be an authority and step into a position of authority within the space, which then off the back of that provides an income stream if you're willing to speak and engage, which seems like you are.
Yeah, and I knew, I'm like, look, I'll probably make 100 podcasts and not make fuck all money out of it, or if not any. Which is I accepted that before I started. Like I've seen a lot of people start podcasts, and I was like, yeah, but did you do any research? Legit, I dived into it for like weeks and weeks and weeks and just watched the content, and I was like watching, all the lessons and the learnings, and I was like, okay, cool, this is what, before I commit to it, I like to know what I'm committing to.
Yep.
And so I committed to it, and I'm like, cool. That's why I set myself, I'm like 100 podcasts. If I get to 100 podcasts by the end of the year, I'll be happy. And then after that, like, look, man, if I can start making some money after that, yeah, cool. I think I would have earned my stripes and I would have earned my stars in that position, and would be in a position to be actually start asking for things. And yeah, I know that I would have laid down some work there, and I'm happy with that. But on the back end, I've organised other things to make income. I didn't just start a podcast going, this is going to make the money. I got the clothing and all the rest of the things, and those things pay for my time here. I'm making sure that I'm compensated for my time here.
Amazing, bro.
So yeah, that's the way I've set it up, and I love it, man. Like that's what I'm stepping into, is building businesses and brands. That's kind of potentially what I want to do. I don't really want to be a coach. Coaching is not for me at this time and stage in my life. Building businesses is. I like building businesses. I love business. And yeah, I like that, man. So that's what I'm doing.
Celebrating you, man.
So sorry to take you down the rabbit hole there, but
you're right.
But yeah, man, that's my story, and that's how I got into. That's why I'm doing this. And I fucking just love hearing what people got to say, man. I love it. Like I like people don't realize how many conversations I have with people. Like, I'm quite connected with a lot of people and yarn to people quite a bit via social media, like videos and shit. Like, how we do Smoko chat and stuff like that. I'm like, I do that shit on a daily, regular basis where I call people and we have really good yarns. I'm like, and just everyone's like, man, you should just like start videoing this shit. And I was like, yeah, you know what, I should too. So that's kind of why I've stepped into it.
It's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. You proud of yourself?
Fuck yeah, man. I love it. I have to tell myself to stop. I know, like, man, I worked till like 2 o'clock the other night, and I was like, fucking go to bed. go to bed. And that's what I've got a video coming out about this in a couple of days about, when you really find your love for something, when like, I'll stay up, man. I don't care. Like, and I know that's bad in a way because you're like, shit, you probably shouldn't be staying up. But when you have a serious love for something, like even in my construction, I still love construction as well. I just know that my energy and time is better transferred into something else at this current stage in my life. And like, there was times where I stayed up. I went to work all day, worked that whole night in the construction job, and then went to work the next day. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Well, that was probably dangerous and I look at it now, but in my head, I'm like, fuck, I love getting this shit done. And that's
there's a difference between something that's really alive for you that you're in love with, and then something that you're using as a way to, I guess, achieve some semblance of self-worth.
Yeah. That's like, I'm like, I wasn't doing it for the money or the validation of like, oh yeah, cool, he did this thing in 2 days. I'm like, nah, I don't give a fuck about that. I was like, I just like, man, I like go-getting shit. And, for me, my one of my biggest things is driving home, like, and I'm like, I did some shit today, man. I'm like, I'm like, fucking, for me, I'm like, man, that warms my heart to know, like, I'm like, fucking, I laid it down today. I made a difference. And, whether, it didn't have to look a certain way to everyone. I'm like, fuck, for me, it's just fulfillment, the right fulfillment, not external validation fulfillment. I mean, if you know what I mean, like fulfillment for me, for what, I'm like, damn, man, I'm like, I'm happy with that. Like, I laid it down today. And that was good for me.
It's amazing, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's my little riff rant. What's on the horizon for you, bro? What's on the horizon? Don't give me a business plan, but like, what's a forecast for you? Actually, I'll ask this question. You're sitting there right now. You've just obviously had this kind of a journey to today, last week. Take me to a place like 5 years from now. You're sitting there, you're chilling. You're not chilling, like you've built up everything that you've wanted to build up over the next 5 years. Paint that picture. Paint that picture for us. What's that look like?
For me, that looks like, first of all, having land up in the hills here for my family to feel safe, where we can provide a space to have those sort of journeys, where my girls can grow up amongst the grass and the trees. It's beautiful. It's a place where we can all ground and stay connected to nature and the earth and to ourselves. Professionally, I guess it'd be the foremost preemptive mental health organization in the mining industry, and be working with the companies that have, I guess, the highest amount of recruitment, the most staff, so that we can make the most impact in terms of FIFO happiness, in terms of Men's Work Collective, have a platform full of light workers, beautiful men who are tapped into the feminine and the masculine, who transmit their truth through a course that they've launched on our platform. And for coaching, just have a group coaching program where I get to take men from closed off to confident and vulnerable.
Yeah, man. That's yeah, bang. I'm like, fuck that. I'm just painting that picture in my head too. I'm like, I'm gonna come over there and stay too. I'm like, that place in the hills sounds good.
Yeah, man. It's what I've noticed with slowing down is that, I was always in this go mentality, trying to acquire and attain out of a scarcity mindset. Like, if I don't do this right now, if I don't achieve X right now, then I won't get some sort of payoff. I won't get a financial reward. And as soon as I slowed down, I gave time and space, and it really created space for things to come into my vortex, rather than me desperately clutching at straws, trying to bring it in.
Grab them. Hey, it's like when you create space, it's like when you shift things out and you push, and you create that space, and then that allows all the right things to come in. And it's like clearing your space is so important. I do this everywhere, man. I do this. People don't understand why I'm so not pedantic about even just like in my room, my office and stuff like that. To allow things to flow, there needs to be space and things. Like, if things are cluttered, your life's cluttered, your bedroom's cluttered, your butt, like all of that shit syncs up. It's like when you clear it, like even my wardrobe, man, I fucking clear all that shit out. I got just basic stuff. Not basic stuff, but it's simplified, and it's having that space there to create new things. And I do that everywhere. I don't overcrowd things, and I constantly refresh things. Like I go through shit all the time, just throw it all out, get rid of it, clear it out. And it's like the next day, like my garage. We're speaking about my garage. You know what happened to my garage? I got rid of everything in my garage. And the next minute I got a fucking podcast studio. It's once you have that space, I'm looking in my garage, I'm like, shit, man, I was thinking a podcast studio is going to fit right there. But, that's what it is, man. That's what we do.
And, when your life is cluttered with stuff, and if you're constantly reaching and creating your own sort of clutter, that, more than likely that's coming from an unconscious wound or unconscious limiting belief where you're self-sabotaging unconsciously through clutter, through over-planning, through go, go, go. If you just created space, and you would allow things to come in.
Yeah. What's like a life lesson that you've learnt over the past 12 months? Like something that you've really had to like come to sit with and being like, okay, like this has happened to me, or this is me now. What's that? What's that look like?
Life lesson. I think it'd probably be the permission I've given myself to feel emotions. Like no matter how good or how bad. Like the reason I could cry through that experience in the peyote ceremony is because I gave myself permission to feel. I've cried a lot in the last 2 months, which up until Bridge I hadn't really done before. I was a pretty cold-hearted person. Could be vulnerable, could be authentic and speak my truth, but I couldn't ever allow myself to really embrace emotion. And so giving myself permission to do that has been amazing, because it means then I'm not suppressing, which means then I'm not building up stuff that needs to eventually be released. And, usually my release was an outburst or snapping at someone, which then just causes more resistance, more shame, more guilt, and keeps me in this perpetual cycle. So, yeah, probably feeling emotion.
That's like, man, this is funny we're having this conversation. That showed up in the last 3 podcasts in a row. Just that conversation itself, like the allowing yourself to feel, and just the benefits of it, and what's to come after, not allowing yourself to feel. And man, like I got pissed off yesterday. Actually, I was speaking to this as well, and this is like I had to do this process. Like I got pissed off as there was I guess a lot of people in towns that I used to live in, knowing my past and stuff like that, they see me doing what I'm doing. They're like, you can't, obviously you'd probably have this too. You fucking shouldn't be doing that. Like, and you're getting shade thrown at. And I was like, you know what, fuck yous, And there was that emotion where I was like, no, and it pissed me off. And I was like, and then you have to allow those emotions to flow. And I was like, how's it making me feel? And give yourself permission. I'm like, oh, don't be trying to like fucking, oh, nah, they don't know. They don't know, and this, I'm like, oh, okay, this has annoyed me or whatever it was. And allowing that process to happen is so important. Allowing yourself to feel emotional, allowing yourself to feel sad about it, guilty about it, whatever it is. And then you shift through it. Otherwise, you're just going to hold it. And I was just like, and I was laughing this morning. I was like, I managed, I shifted through it quite quickly and fastly. And I was like, oh shit, did I go through that too quick? Then I started, I'm like, am I a little bit heartless because I just shifted through that real quick? And I was like, oh no, that's just been getting good at this, getting good practice at this. Just feeling it, face it, feel it, free it. And like, oh, okay, face off with it. What's it like? What's honest here? What's really coming up? How's it feel? Okay, now we're gonna shift through it. Might have to do
That's
that.
Cool, man.
2 times, 3 times, 4 times, whatever it is, and get practice at it. Do it again. Like, I'm like, fuck. I always like express it, even with things that piss me off. Like, I'll be like, how does it make me feel? And I'll be like, it fucks me off. Fuck them assholes. Blah blah blah. give it a full spray. And I'm like, how did it make me feel? I'm like, oh, it made me feel a bit insecure. It made me feel not worthy. It made me feel what, and that's, be vulnerable. Be as vulnerable as you can in that situation and be like, nah, it's making me feel like shit. Oh no, it made me feel sad. Oh no, it ticked me off. Oh no, it made me double check on myself and who I am. Okay, now we're going to let go of it because we know that's not us. It's just,
Yeah, and even moving a step further from there, moving from the mind to the body, like bringing awareness to how that feeling and emotion shows up in the body, like how it feels within the body itself. Like a good example for me is when I get angry, I have like this hot, it feels like a fire in my chest and it runs down my arms, and the more you become accustomed to that feeling, the less likely you are to suppress or repress it. And it's beautiful to just witness the emotion in your body. And especially it's been awesome for public speaking, especially like nervousness, man. Like nerves before public speaking. I just spoke to a group of people at Ascot Racecourse here in Perth. And it was like a fucking football field, bro. That's how big like the room was. And I hadn't spoken to a room that big before. And there was genuine nerves there. But because I've become so accustomed to feeling the emotion within my body, I could say, okay, cool. Like, this is what it feels like to be nervous. I've got tingles all down my arms and down my legs. Like, I feel like there's a lot of energy running throughout my body. I can feel it running everywhere. And then it's just like, and then from there you can reframe it. You can ask yourself what the energy actually is. Yeah. What if that energy was actually energy because my body knows I'm about to step into something where I can provide from this place where I need this energy to provide a service to make an impact.
Boom, on the money. I'd never heard it in that way, but I always tell myself this as well. Like, I'm slowly stepping into doing more speaking and hopefully get to a level that you're at as well. I always say to myself, as of recent, I've been like, look, man, you get nervous. I'm like, these people are here because they want to hear what you say, and what you have to say is really important. So if you don't deliver right now, you may not be able to help these people. So I'm like, what you have to say right now means everything. So you make sure, and I kind of put that pressure on myself. I'm like, deliver, because I like to deliver. I love delivering. I'm like, I'm going to show up here and deliver. So I'm like, that's my way of reframing it. I'm like, they need to hear this because what I have to say is really important and it's going to help. So make sure that you tell it right, you tell it well, and you tell it good, and you tell it with that heart.
I guess the one thing I'd say for public speaking, bro, is find yourself something like an action that you can use to anchor yourself. Like before you speak, an action that you engage in. For me, it's like jumping up on my toes up and down 20 times, like the breath, synchronizing that. And so before I go into a speaking gig, I'll do that. And then if it goes really well, I'll do that at the end. So then I anchor myself in that feeling from being proud of myself, getting off stage, having people clap you or cry, depending on what the talk is about. And then I anchor that feeling and that pride into the jumping up and down. And so next time I do it before a speaking gig, my body's used to having that feeling associated with the jumping up and down.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool.
Making that habit, making that routine of going, okay, we're getting on stage, you're preparing your body. It's like, okay, we're going to do the thing again. Here we go.
Yep, this is what we feel like when we do this jump.
Yeah, that's it. We're getting prepped, and that's creating good habits, man. And creating the feeling around the habit as well is so important. Oh man, fuck, holy shit, we busted up an hour already. This is the thing. Like, I get stuck in these conversations. I'm like, man, we could go here all day and keep talking. Let's. I got two more questions, man. Because before I wrap it up, I want to know what's something that annoys you.
Something that's come up recently is the people who speak over other people. You're in a conversation and somebody's always trying to like talk over you, and then you're trying to get your point across. You're talking, and they'll speak louder and louder until you stop.
Yeah,
that fucking annoys me, bro.
No. Shh. Now I know what you mean. That it's people like that are, Like that, there can be like that verbal cross path where people are talking, and like
Yep.
maybe oh shit, sorry, bro. But then there's the people that hear you talking but want to talk over you like deliberately. I'm like, just let the fucking man talk. Like
Yep.
can you shut up for a sec? Because I want to hear what he has to say. But they're like so on. Yeah, what I have to say is more important. His opinion, fuck his opinion, because mine's more. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. You may be right here, you may be wrong, but just let him, like, let that bit happen too. Oh, that's something I see.
But then also understanding, like, that anything that annoys or triggers me is usually a mirror or reflection of myself. And so in saying that I'm annoyed by that, it's like, yeah, because I've silenced myself and my voice most of my life, and that's why it annoys me.
Yeah. Yeah,
so it always comes back to us.
Yeah, it always does. Everything does, but like it's like having that awareness of it as well. Like you can pick up on it. Like like when you like just then you just pulled yourself on it. But it's like when people don't, like having that awareness is important. But like when you have that, you can kind of play the game a little bit as well too. You know what I mean? Like you can play around in those areas.
You should be on Survivor or Big Brother, man.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry. I'm putting in the application for a TV show soon too.
Nice.
Hopefully you'll see me on Channel 7.
Ooh, naughty, man.
Not doing anything erotic either. Not for anything bad. Last question. Let's say I'm Aladdin, just way cooler, with my magic wand, and you get one wish, What would it be? Like, just change something, or what would it be? Like, you want to make an impact, whatever it was. I could just be like, Alakazam. Don't say bigger dick.
I think... No, I'm past that.
Yeah, I know.
It's all right as it is, bro. I'm fine with it.
I was like, is he going to give me something funny, or is he going to be like... I was like, yeah, what's he going to quit?
I've got the Maltesers and the chocolate finger, brother. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, buddy.
I think if I had one wish, bro, it'd probably be, especially after that ceremony, the ability to allow everyone on the planet to feel. Like, whether it is good or bad, man. That's what's missing. That's what's causing a lot of trouble right now, is just the ability or inability to feel. Like, if you could feel compassion for someone who's hurting, it'd be a whole lot easier to show empathy.
It's the second time that's come up, man, in the last couple of days. That like, just let people feel, So that's a good answer, man. It's a cool question I don't get to ask a lot of people. Because there's always something.
Epic, bro.
Yeah. Man, fuck, bro. That was awesome. As always, I'm going to wrap it up. But because we'll have another chat sometime soon. I really want to see this next stage and this next journey of yours. And if you're out there right now, go check out Lachlan's Instagram, his Facebook, and his podcast as well. Man, a lot of good content on there as well. And I appreciate you. Appreciate the way you show up for yourself, your community, the FIFO community, your family, and the leadership that you have via stepping into your vulnerability on a day-to-day basis. So don't ever tame that down. Don't ever turn that light out, and keep shining, keep going, keep living, keep loving. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, beautiful, smiley man. I appreciate you too, man. Love the way that you show up. Love the courage you've shown to make the transition from builder Luke to podcast Luke. It's amazing, brother. Deeply, deeply grateful for you.
Bang. Thank you, brother. Let's wrap it up. Thank you.